Hi, I'm Brandon Christopher King. In this video, we're going to explore a radical new way of understanding energy, mass, and motion. A perspective that completely redefines how we view the universe. We've always thought of energy as something objects possess, and mass as a property of those objects. But what if I told you that these aren't separate things at all? What if they're just different expressions of the same continuous flow of energy that shapes everything around us? In this video, we're diving into kinetic flow energy and the RLFlow model, a new framework that shifts the focus from isolated objects to the flowing, interconnected energy patterns that make up reality. Get ready to see the universe not as a collection of things, but as a dynamic, living flow that shapes everything from mass to motion. This is a whole new way of understanding the world. Let's dive in. Imagine you're standing by a river. The water rushes past, swirling in eddies, forming whirlpools, and flowing effortlessly through curves and bends. Now, what if I told you that this simple, natural motion, the way water moves through space, is actually a blueprint for how the entire universe works? For centuries, we've thought of energy and motion as something that belongs to objects. Newton told us that force moves masses. Einstein told us mass and energy are interchangeable. But what if I told you that mass, energy, and motion are not separate things at all? What if they are just different expressions of the same fundamental reality? A continuous, flowing fabric that makes up everything we see. Today, I'm here to introduce you to kinetic flow energy, the RLFlow model's radical rethinking of motion, mass, and energy. And trust me, once you see the universe this way, you'll never look at anything the same way again. The classical view, energy as an object property. Let's start with how we usually think about kinetic energy. You probably remember this equation from physics class, E equals 1/2 mv squared. It tells us that the faster an object moves and the more mass it has, the more kinetic energy it possesses. Simple, right? You push something, it moves, it has energy. End of story. But what if I told you that this equation, while useful, is only half the truth? It assumes that mass is an intrinsic property of objects, that objects exist as standalone entities with energy inside them. But we now know that mass isn't fundamental. It's emergent. It's something that forms under the right conditions, when energy flows stabilize into persistent structures. That means kinetic energy isn't something owned by objects. It's something that emerges from the way energy flows through the universe. And that is a game changer. RLFlows take energy as a property of flows. In RLFlow, everything, matter, forces, even space itself, is made of energy flows. Nothing is truly solid. What we call objects are just stable flow patterns. And kinetic energy? That's not something particles carry. It's the energy of motion within the flow field. Here's how we rethink kinetic energy in RLFlow. Instead of 1/2 mv squared, we express it as an integral over a flow field. Let me break it down. R. This is the resonance intensity, a measure of how stable or dense the flow is at any point. V flow squared. This is the local flow velocity squared, representing how fast energy is moving through the field. And this, the integral, this is the biggest difference of all. It means that energy isn't assigned to objects. It's spread throughout the flow field, constantly redistributed as flows interact. So instead of thinking of kinetic energy as a property of things, we now see it as a property of movement itself. Energy is not carried, it is woven into the flow of reality itself. Why this changes everything? Mass is not fundamental, it's emergent. If kinetic energy is tied to flow intensity rather than intrinsic mass, then mass itself must be something that emerges from the stability of flows. That means mass isn't an input, it's an outcome. A high resonance flow behaves as if it has mass, but in reality, it's just a stable pattern of energy and motion. Imagine a whirlpool in a river. It looks solid, right? But it's just water spinning in a stable pattern. That's what mass is in RLFlow. A whirlpool in the cosmic river of energy. The tighter and more stable the vortex, the more mass-like it behaves. Motion is not an object's journey. It's a shift in flow patterns. If you push an object in traditional physics, you think of it as a thing moving through space. But in RLFlow, there is no empty space. The object is just a pattern in the flow, and its movement is really just a shift in the structure of the flow field itself. Think of it this way. If you move your hand through water, the water doesn't carry your hand forward. Instead, your movement disturbs the flow, creating new patterns that adjust to your motion. In the same way, motion in RLFlow is about how flows adjust to shifts in resonance. This applies at all levels, from galaxies drifting in space to quantum particles popping in and out of existence. Forces are flow interactions, not pushes and pulls. In classical physics, force is an external push or pull applied to an object. But in RLFlow, force isn't applied. It emerges naturally from interactions between flows. Picture two streams of water colliding. The fast-moving current will naturally bend and influence the slower one. This isn't because one stream is pushing the other. It's because their flows are merging and finding a new equilibrium. That's what force really is. An interaction between flows, where motion and energy naturally redistribute to maintain balance. Bridging the classical and quantum worlds, this new way of looking at kinetic energy does something incredible. It bridges the gap between classical physics and quantum mechanics. In the classical world, objects move through space, gaining or losing energy through force. In the quantum world, particles act like waves, constantly fluctuating, appearing in superpositions. In RLFlow, both of these are just different manifestations of the same principle: energy flows shifting between states of resonance, kinetic motion, and potential storage. That means kinetic energy isn't some separate concept for particles versus waves. It's all part of the same flow-based reality, where the energy of motion exists not in things, but between them. What this could mean for the future. If we accept that energy is not something stored in objects, but something flowing through the universe, it means we could one day control that flow. Imagine technologies that manipulate resonance to reduce resistance, or even reshape the way motion interacts with gravity. Energy systems. If motion is a property of the flow field, could we tap into the natural flow of space itself for limitless energy? Gravity manipulation. If mass is emergent, could we alter flow resonance to reduce or enhance gravity? Quantum computing. If quantum uncertainty is a turbulence in the flow field, could we stabilize it to create perfect quantum states? The possibilities are endless. But to unlock them, we need to stop seeing the universe as a collection of objects and start seeing it for what it really is: a continuous, evolving flow of energy and motion. Final thought: the universe as a river of energy. So the next time you look at a rushing river or watch the wind ripple across a field of grass, remember this: you're seeing the same principles that govern the entire universe. Motion isn't something objects do, it's something the flow field is. And once we understand that, we'll not only unlock the deepest secrets of physics, we'll gain the power to shape the very flows that hold the universe together.